theyeshiva.net.
Okay, so let's summarize and continue Be'ezer Hashem. The nekuda that was being explored was that Ein hadinim nimtakim ela b'sharshan. All harshness, all dinim, and you go to the root, you trace back to the root, you find a different perspective, you find a different picture. You find a hamtaka, sweetness, as elaborated upon in the previous shiurim. And what this means, he says, is also in terms of everything in our world as well. Whenever you encounter in the world, in your own life, a challenge, an obstacle, chalila, a crisis, whatever level it may be, emotional, spiritual, social, very personal, Mila da alma or mila da shmaya, heavenly matters, meaning spiritual matters, in terms of your relationship with Hashem, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your family, your moral life, or it has even to do with your physical life. Any element of a person's life, and he or she encounters a challenge, a crisis, a difficult fork in the road, on any level, there's always two perspectives. There's the perspective below, and there's the perspective above. Now, this is not such an easy avodah. This is heavy stuff. The perspective below is, this is crazy. This is horrible. This is a crisis. This makes my life miserable. With all the thoughts and emotions that come with that, which are a normal byproduct of this experience. But what the Baal HaTanya challenges us is to perhaps ask a different question. And that is, can I really go back to the source of it? Can I really take this challenge and look at it from its divine perspective? In other words, search for the ultimate oxygen, the chiyus, that is feeding the energy, that is feeding the energy, that is feeding the energy until it comes down to this reality. And then you will discover that what from one side is absolute negative and disastrous and catastrophic and destructive, and certainly it's a curveball that you didn't ask for, you didn't expect, you're not interested in, and that remains the truth, you're still not interested in it. But nonetheless, this curveball contains within it really a tremendous positive energy that is here to bring out something incredibly powerful in you or in the world. The person may not know what, or know how exactly, or know why, but that perspective, the ability to understand that in every crisis lay the seeds for opportunity. So that an obstacle is not an obstacle, but it's not even only a challenge. It's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. In other words, there's something good here. And he says that's the mashal that the Zohar gives of the Zoyne with the Ben HaMelech. There's a prince. He's trying to do his thing. He's trying to sit and learn in yeshiva. He's a good boy. He's a prince of the king. And suddenly this woman comes into his life, a machta meshuga. And everybody has this in their own way, whatever their mashal hazoyne is, that force that just drives you mad. It could be an addiction. It could be a horrible habit. It could be a reality you're living with every day, or a reality that comes into your life once in a while. It could be something connected to the internet. It could be alcohol. It could be gambling. Or it could be stam inner thoughts and emotions. But every person has, Baruch Hashem, their mashal hazoyna that they could give. If you want, we can go around the room and everybody could tell us what their mashal hazoyna is. But I don't know if mahalt noch badam. Midet Zeit. But everybody has that mashal. At the surface, he looks at her, and she is the worst thing for him. What?
We all share the same.
Everybody mama's the same? I doubt
Had a
it.
conversation.
Okay, maybe you too, but...
Said you do?
So at the surface, this is a very destructive force in his life. And it is a destructive force in his life. What she's asking him to do is something that is immoral. It's not right. It's unjust. It's promiscuous. It will distance him from his values, his purpose, and his ability to succeed his father, which is why his father is testing him. He wants this boy to know what it is to fight for something. The boy grew up in a wonderful palace, never lacked anything, never went hungry for a day. He doesn't know what life is. You want to be a leader, you want to be a monarch, a benevolent leader, you have to know what people go through. You have to have your finger on the pulse of the people. You have to be in tune to the heartbeat of the nation. The Rambam says in Hilchos Malachim, Leiv HaMelech hu leiv kol kahal Yisrael. The heart of a king is the heartbeat of Klal Yisrael. You have to be, your heartbeat is an expression. Your heartbeat should be the heartbeat of the Jewish people. That's what a real Melech Yisrael is. Not every Melech was that way. But a true Jewish leader, a real Rebbe, a real Manig Yisrael, a real Melech Yisrael, his heartbeat is, that's what the Rambam says, is Leiv Kol Kahal Yisrael. It's the heartbeat of the people. You look at his heartbeat and you see the heartbeat of the people. It's a very rich expression. So the king knows that his son can't be a melech if he doesn't fight for himself. So he sends the Zoyna, but he doesn't know any of this. All he's dealing is with Mashal HaZoyna, he's dealing with a Zoyna. So that's what the Zohar points out. From his perspective, the greatest obstacle in life. But who sent it? The king sent it. The king sent it to bring out his own depth, his own goodness. So even though at the surface she's inviting him to do something destructive, if he could look behind her, inside of her, if he could find the oxygen that is feeding her, the energy that's fueling her to do this, what will he find ultimately? He'll find his own father. His father is being expressed in a form that seems contrary to his father's wishes. And therefore what this means is that she really wants that he shouldn't listen to her. That means when he listens to her, he's actually not listening to her. He's listening to who he thinks she is. Deep down what she wants is, don't listen to me. Because this is not who I am about. I'm really part of your father's team. If he doesn't listen to her, she's much happier. So we have here a funny paradox. The more he listens to her, the less he has her. The less he listens to her, the more he has her. That's the truth about all addiction. All these types of things. All external taivas. The more you listen, the less you have it. The less you listen, the more you have it. Why? Because really, if you could see the real neshama inside the taiva, it's telling you, no, 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 no. But it can't say that, because if it say that, it would defeat its purpose. So it's saying, yeah, yeah, yeah. But if you can hear the inner kol, the kol pneima, it's saying, no, please, no, no, no. The Zoyna is looking at the Ben Melech. She has to fake it. But deep, deep in her eyes, she's begging him not to listen. If he listens, she's like, do it, do shaitan at the best. You're trying to please me. You don't understand. This is all about your own truth. So my chitzonius, my externality is fighting you. But only because I want to bring you out. And therefore, my true pnimius, my true core, is really trying to assist you. I'm really on your team. I'm trying to help you. And that's what the Zohar says, that no Eved rebels against his master. You have always slaves who rebel against their master, but there's a difference. A regular slave and master, they're two separate people. When the master owns and buys the slave, it's contrary to nature. So therefore, the slave wants to go free. When you're dealing with Avdus, Eved Hashem, it's a different pchina. Eved Hashem basically means that a person gets chiyus, his whole life comes from Hashem. So therefore, his very identity is essentially divine energy. So to serve Hashem basically means to be aligned with His true self, with His true energy. So the Zohar says, how can it be that you have in the world that something gets chayas from Hashem, and there's nothing that doesn't get chayas from Hashem, and that chayas is used against Hashem? You have a very essential paradox. It's a very strange phenomenon. The very ability for a person to be an atheist, you have to speak, you have to do, you have to think. The energy of those words is coming from God, and it's being used completely against God. In other words, it's the divine that is being used against the divine. To fight God, you need God. You can't fight God without God. So that means God is fighting Himself. So that's a funny thing. And the same is true every taiv in the world, every zoin in the world. That's what it is. For her to do her job, she needs oxygen, she needs life. She needs courage, she needs confidence, she needs chiyus. Where is that? That comes from elikus. Einad Mulvada. If it comes from elikus, that means elikus is giving chiyus to that which is exactly opposite of elikus. The whole message is there's no God, fight God. So what's pshat? That's what the Zohar says. That's the mashal hazayin in Ben Amelech. What you think is a fight against him, it's really not. It looks that way, but it's not. Why? Because she was also hired by him to go to the prince, and because she was hired by him to go to the prince, so therefore her very chiyus, doing what she's doing on the surface, it's completely against the melech. That's really also part of the melech. It's all part of the melech. In other words, it's really very good. It's not bad, it's good. The goodness is expressed in a challenge, but the challenge is really an opportunity. That's the vart we spoke a few times, the Moira Nayim brings. The Moira Nayim was Reb Nachum Chernobyl. He was a Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov and of the Maggid. There's a sefer Moira Nayim. Moira Nayim. Reb Nachum Chernobyl writes the Moira Nayim Parshas Vayishlach. The Gemara says in Maseches Yuma, Habol Tayir Messiah Noisai Habol Tomei Poischen Loi. Somebody who comes to purify himself, they help him. Hashem helps him. Somebody who comes to contaminate himself, Poischen Loi. They open the doors for him. Why the difference? The Pashtus, when you're coming to cleanse yourself, you're helped. When you're coming to contaminate yourself, you're not helped. He just opens the door. You want to go there? I'll open the door for you. I'm not going to push you in that direction, but I'll open the door. The Moira Nayim says something much deeper. It says, Habolet Tamei Poischen Loi means it's a hafla dikavart. If somebody comes to be Tamei, somebody is experiencing a meshich, an inclination, a challenge to contaminate himself, Poischen Loi. He has to know that that is his Pesach, his opening to connect to Hashem. That is his Pesach. Pischu li shari tzedek, avoy vom oide yudke. This is his Pesach. This is his breakthrough. Not only should he not get depressed and derailed because he's dealing with all this stuff, fakert, poischemoi, this all comes from Hashem. This is not a sign that he's distant, that he's alien, that he's being thrown out, he's being rejected. No. Poischemoi. This is God's invitation. I want you to be close. I want you to be the closest ever. This is your he says, this is his Pesach l'Ruach HaKodesh. That's his expression. This is his Pesach for divine inspiration. This is it. How could you say this? What do you mean this is it? The thoughts are just opposite. They're going to throw him off. They're going to throw him down into the abyss. That's only if he looks at the external facade. If he goes deeper, what is the oxygen behind this ra? It's really toiv. It's really godliness. Because everything needs chiyus from Hashem. If it needs chiyus from Hashem, it means it has a divine reality. It has a divine perspective. Doesn't mean it's easy. Nobody says it's easy, and it doesn't mean it's not always painful. So it could be painful, and it could be tough. It can be hard. The Zaina could be very, very attractive. Her lure could be very, very appealing, be very powerful. Extremely powerful. But powerful at the surface. Internally, this power is all a cover-up. And if you surrender to that power, you're surrendering to a cover-up, and therefore you're not even going to have her b'chlal. You're going to have her externalities. So therefore, the Mar Yonayim says, Abol Tameh, he should know Pesach like this is his Pesach. This is his Pesach l'Ruach HaKodesh. Only through this can he reach where he has to reach in life, and only through this can he become the human being he's supposed to become, and only through this can he or she reach their ultimate potential and touch the divine the way they are capable of touching the divine. In Hebrew, the word for a breakdown is, they say, the Chinese, there's an old anecdote, why did the Chinese survive for 5,000 years? The answer is because in China, the words, they don't have words like we have, it's characters, everything is in characters. So the same character that they have for the word crisis, they have for the word opportunity. That's an old anecdote. I never checked it up, I never learned Mandarin, but as I sagt man, mit Pisfurim and mit Pisoifrim. But in Lashon Kodesh, I do know a little better than Mandarin. In Lashon Kodesh, it's much better than that. Much deeper, much better. The word in Hebrew for a breakdown is a mashber. Mashber, mem, shin, beis, reish. The same word, mashber, is in Tanakh for the and it means a birthing stool. Mashber is the stool upon which a woman gives birth. It's not a coincidence. Every breakdown is essentially giving birth. Giving birth is painful, as everybody in this room knows so well. Or the people watching know even better than the people sitting in this room. It's painful. I'm not talking about the pain of the husband. I'm talking about the pain of the wife. Is a little more than the pain of the husband. There are a lot more, infinitely more. There's pain. But a baby is born. A baby is born. It doesn't mean a baby is born and it's easy. It's tough and it's painful. But there's birth. Every mashber is also a new birth. How can that be? Because that's the emes of it. The truth of it on a deeper level is that there's a baby waiting to be born. So I could look at the surface and all I see is destruction. My life is full of problem. That's what I could see. And you know what? This is what a person sees. This is what they see. On a deeper level, he says, go back to the shoyrish. Go deeper, 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 and you'll see there's something supposed to be born here. There's something incredibly positive supposed to be born, and that's why this can exist, because nothing can exist outside of Hashem. Ultimately, everything comes from Him. It's not a real Zoyna who has independence. The Yetzer Hara also comes from the Melech. The Chiyus of a Yetzer Hara comes from Hashem. That means God is giving this energy to fight Him, to take you away from Him. He says no. That's also Him. It's just Him in a different way. Wie sagt man bei euch? Afilu ba'asture, shebetoich hasture, shebetoich hasture, shebetoich hasture. Yeah? So I'm also there. Hanoichi aste ponei b'yom hahu. The Baal Shem Tov said that even in the haster, it's also a noichi. The hester guf is me. It's not like everybody touches the niggin. It's not. It's deeper than the niggin. The niggin they touch even in the concealment. I'm there. The concealment is also me. Different word. The concealment is also me. The concealment itself is also toiv. It's just, it evolved and it evolved and it evolved. All the Ben Melech sees is he's dealing with a Mashal HaZayna. That's what he's dealing with. But if he could go deep into her thoughts, what will he find? He's doing the mission of his father, doing the mission of the king. Let's now see weiter. The line starts shekenegda. You see, the line starts shekenegda. V'zeu davar hamachayes kol haroyes. And this is something that gives life to everything that we call ra. Every crisis. V'sharsham l'maylahu toiv. Their root above is good. What do we mean it's good? It means that the oxygen that's feeding, that's giving life and substance and vitality to whatever you're experiencing, internal or external, is ultimately coming from a source which is divine. It's Toiv. Now, here you have to make a bavarin. There are people who live in La La Land. They live in La La Land. They hear this, and forever they just walk around with a smile like this. Everything is perfect. Somebody's banging a hammer over your head. Everything is perfect. So he says, understand, when it comes down, it goes through the whole evolution. It can really become bad. It can become Ra Gomor. There's some, in other words, you have to be careful with this, because this is not trying to turn a person into a living in fantasy land, where suddenly everything is holy, everything is beautiful, everything is rosy, everything is positive. There's inyanim of Isur, there's inyanim of Heter, there's inyanim of Rishus. There's things you have to run away from like poison. What are you running away from? God is here, He's everywhere. This is the opposite notion that's equally dangerous. It says you have to understand there's a hishtalshalos. If the prince listens to the Zaina and says, okay, I'll do whatever you want because you're the Melech, he's accomplishing the exact opposite. He only finds the king in the Zaina when he says no to her, not when he says yes. If he embraces her, he's actually distancing himself from who she really is in her source. But he fell prey to the external facade. So that's what he's saying. Some things, when they come down, becomes Ra Gomor. V'dinim Gemorim.
But this is not even with the Zohar. If he listens to her, it's not even Shtashus. It's directly from the king. Still, if he listens to her,
right.
There's no Shtashus.
Right, because that's not from the king. Because that's not. You understand? The king sent her because he wants the child to say no.
Right. So is that called Shtashus already?
So that's a certain form of Ishtalshlus. Now imagine that this Zaina hires another Zaina, another one, and she hires, you know how they do it. Right. It's companies. Yeah, the one on the top, there's the CEO, and they subcontract. And another one, then you have number 100, she doesn't even know who the king is. She's just doing her job. Really, she's being paid by somebody all the way back. But what does the prince see? All he's dealing is with Ra. That's what he's dealing with. Could it live without the original chiyus? It can't. But ultimately, the way it evolves down here below, from our perspective, all we see is Ra.
But either way, we're talking, we're saying, if we see an opportunity, we're going to go against it.
Yes.
What difference does it make how much Shtashus it is?
No, I'm just saying it makes a difference of how powerful the challenge for the person is, and how painful it is. Yeah, and how harsh it is. Yeah. If it's closer to the source, it's already a whole different type of concealment. So he says, could be in worldly matters. Chalila, somebody is missing something in worldly matters, they're having a real challenge. Or in Miladah Shmaya, or in heavenly matters, in spiritual matters, also a real challenge.
Be like lumped together. It seems like two totally different things. When tragedy versus challenges seem like they're not the same. They're lumped together here with one.
The Freg's good. The Freg's good, mein Kind. The Freg's good. What should I tell you?
The Zaina explains challenges, doesn't really explain tragedy.
Somebody asked Friday if I would tell this to a Holocaust survivor. That's what you're asking me in different words.
Oh, no.
That's what you're asking me in different words. I know. It's not Parshas. I know.
Saying the fear is different. No.
He says this is true in everything. Hein b'milah da'alma, hein b'milah d'shmaya. Everything ultimately gets chayas from above. But you're right. Emotionally, to be able to look at something and always say this is a very, very difficult task. It's an excruciating task. And one cannot demand that from somebody emotionally. It's a process. It's a journey. It's a perspective.
How does the mashal help us understand? The mashal helps us understand when it's a challenge, not so much when it's a tragedy.
You're right. This mashal is not a mashal of a tragedy. It's a mashal of a challenge. You're right. A moral challenge. That's milah d'shmaya. Milah d'shmaya would mean a heavenly challenge. In other words, a challenge when it comes to your moral self, your spiritual self, Could be a challenge connected to your marriage, a challenge with your children in terms of more spiritual or psychological or emotional challenges. Then there's tragedies in life, there's loss in life, right? There's a person experiences a loss in life, whether mamish a loss, or whatever loss. Could be financial loss, could be health, could be chas v'shalom, something that causes deep grief. Also happening in the world. You look at it, you say, this is bad. This is bad. This is horrible. This is dinim gemunim. And that's what he says. It becomes rag gomer. It becomes dinim gemunim. We don't suddenly say, Tisha B'Av, you should start dancing. Right? Instead of a person sitting shiva, they should turn it to put him in Simchas Torah. You don't say that in halacha. Why don't you say it in halacha? Einoid muvada. The answer is because hishtalshlus is a metzias. It's a reality. It comes down. And the way it comes down into this world, it's an inyan of ra, it's an inyan of din, it's not an inyan of chesed. Yeah? V'hinei, k'shabola adam ezi yisurim nachmana litzlan. So when a person encounters a painful reality, a painful situation, again, on any level, it could be internal, it could be external. Yachshoiv, the person should think, ki loy lemare einov yishbet. He shouldn't judge the reality only by what he sees, sherahu, that it's just evil. My life is destroyed. So a person deals with stuff, maybe from your youth, maybe presently. A person, let's say, has been through something difficult, from childhood or any stage in life. They could look at it and just say, I was given the sour deal. That's it. Some people get the better piece of the cake, and some people get the rotten cake. Some people get a good apple, v'mevarv the eplach. When heaven throws the apples on you, yeah, some get a good apple, a nice, big, sweet red apple. Some get a green, sour apple, but at least it still has some good taste to it. And some get rotten apples. You open the apple, and it's decomposed and it's moldy. It's a fashimmelt durach and durach. Somebody once told me, he said, Rabbi David, my life is cursed from the day I was born till the day I die. Everything is a curse. Everything I touch turns black. The Even Ezra had very bad mazel. Huh?
I think he didn't touch you.
He did, and I didn't turn black, and I proved to him that not everything turns black. The Even Ezra writes a poem. He was a very poor man. He was like one of the greatest philosophers of the day. He wrote a Chol Pirush on Chumash, Tanakh. Rabbeinu Avram Eben Ezra. He lived in Spain in the 12th century. So he has a poem. He's such a poor man, he never had a penny to his name. So he says, if I would go into the business of making tachrichim, of making shrouds for dead people, people would stop dying. That's how bad my mazel is. And he says, and if I would go into the business of manufacturing candles, the sun will never set. He has a whole poem about this. He laments his life. I just can't get it together. But the Even Ezra, his life, he turned that life into a piece of glory. I mean, you read his Svarim are extraordinary. But he's saying about his mazel when it came to Parnasa. But internally, he was a very rich person. He was a lot richer than a lot of people you know. The Gemara says, "Ein ani ela b'deya, ve'ein asher ela b'deya." So I'll call upon him. You could look at the life and say it's ra. He says a person should think, don't only judge it l'marein. He's not saying don't disregard what you see. What you see, you see. But don't only look with your eyes and say, oh, this is bad. Ela be'emes sharshayu toif. You should understand that if you go to the roots, it's toif. Why? Ki mimenu yisbarach lo teitze harayis. Because from him, pure evil doesn't come out. Ki imrak toiv gomer. Only absolute goodness comes from him. And everything comes from him. So if everything comes from him, in the shoyrish it's toiv gomer. You'll ask me a question. Really? So how does this discrepancy happen so dramatically? Why do I see something that is so negative, that is so challenging, that is so devastating, that is so difficult to deal with? When you're telling me that really, Really, if I can get to the core of the chiyus here, it's mamish toiv. It's coming from Hashem. And therefore, if it's mamish toiv, it's really an opportunity for tremendous dveikus, for tremendous growth, for unprecedented wholesomeness and happiness. What's this discrepancy? Why? Or to put it differently, why is it that some things that come from God look good, and some things that come from God look so bad? Or to quote Shalom Aleichem, who said, "The Eibishter wird helfen, God will help. Ich will nur der Eibishter soll helfen, fight them with the Eibishter helft." I hope God can help before He helps. Right? God will help, but till He helps, you should also help. So the shaila is, why do some things come from toiv and they look like toiv, and some things come from toiv and they look the opposite? The answer is rakshu einay musik. The toiv gamor is not comprehensible. B'shvil shalayis yuchal leirid lo'olam hashafel. Very fast. This energy somehow can't come down all the way to the lower world the way it is. V'nisha l'mayla. The goodness of it remains above, meaning it remains abstract. Ein b'sefer shel beinin in perek chavav b'geres hakodesh dibur hamaschil askil chabin. V'zen nikra michla dikik. You know what this expression is from? It's a Targum Unkelus in Parshas Chukas. If you might have said the Shnayim Mikra Vecha Targum, and you do the Targum Unkelus, you would know this expression. It says in Parshas Chukas, the Jews say, "V'nafshenu kotza belechem hakloikel." Our souls are disgusted with this horrible, deteriorating bread, the man, lechem hakloikel, and that's when the snakes attack them. And that's when this whole story happens. So this is not stam an expression. This is part of the essential to the Smaim. So the Targum Unkel says, what's lechem hakloikik? Michla de kik. Michla de kik means two things. It means horrible food, but the kik comes from the word dak. Daka min adaka, very subtle, very fine. And that's the point. What they can't appreciate about certain food is it's very, very fine. It's so fine that in your world, it's horrible food. Like most people treat kale, right? Potato chips is good, yeah. Danishes are good, yeah. Kale is a horrible food. Why? Because it's a real food. Everything else is garbage, so it's good. The more garbage, the more good. The more nutritious, the more bad. On a spiritual level, he says, "Zenikra, this is michla dakik. It's very edel of food. Sho be'emes chiyusa yizbarach. It's really his chiyus, but it's too profound for the person. For the person to experience it in a way that they can fully see the goodness here." Let's give a dugma, an example. The Arizal brings, it's brought us on Poskim. Many people have a minhag when you say Yoitzer Or. Anybody does it here? When you say Yoitzer Or, you kiss the Tefillin Shal Yad. Boire Choshech, Tefillin Shal Rosh. Everybody knows Tefillin Shal Rosh, the Gemara says, is holier than Tefillin Shal Yad. You could make a Shal Yad Shal Rosh, not Shal Rosh Shal Yad. Darkness is inferior to light. You would think Yoitzer Or, Tefillin Shal Rosh. Boire Choshech, Tefillin Shal Yad. No, it's the other way around. Why? Yoitzer and Boire, who's higher? Boire comes before Yoitzer. You create and you form. Briya Yitzirah. So it should have been Boire Yoir, Yoitzer Choshech. No, Yoitzer Yoir and then Boire Choshech. There's two forms of darkness. There's darkness that is lower than light, and there's darkness that's higher than light. An example. You have a Rav, a teacher, who's a brilliant, brilliant teacher, and really knows. And he gives a shiur. There's two types of shiur. One shiur is, he explains everything to the point that a 5-year-old can understand it. He takes the cookie and he crumbles it into crumbs that every person, baby food, even a baby intellectually can feed it, can eat it, and enjoy it, and go home and feel full. Why? Because he broke it down into small little pieces and became baby food. Sometimes the Rav expresses his knowledge on his level without breaking it down. What happens? People sitting there, they say, "No, what did you get out of it?" He will say, went right over my head. Another person will say, "I just came out with a headache." Another person will say, "It was too confusing, I fell asleep," or "I started to text," or "I started to daydream." Where did the Rav give more? Where did he give more depth? Where did he give more wisdom? In the first example or the second example? Second. In the first, he was mitzamtzamit. He restricted the knowledge to spoon feed the crowd, so everybody likes it. It works with their kalim. It fits into my character. When he reveals everything, when he reveals his depth, like, whoa! All I feel is a headache. You ever sat at a shiur, somebody was a baki b'shas and rishonim, and it all comes out, and everybody just walks home with a migraine. Not because he didn't give enough, because he gave too much. Too much rain creates a flood, right? Roiv toiva eni echayl lekabel. The whole Mishnah in Tainus, it starts raining, you have a tsunami, it doesn't work. You need droplets of water to be able to nurture the ground and be able to promote growth. It has to be restricted, it has to be mitzumtzum. Tif, a drop after a drop, a tipper. You give too much of yourself, people don't have the containers, it shatters them. You look at the sun straight and it blinds you. Why? Not because it's too little light, it's too much light. Too much light destroys your eyes. Why? It's great. You need light, you don't want darkness. You need light that works. You get close to the sun, you can't live. If our earth, if our planet was a little closer to the sun, we would all burn. We would become toast, eternal toast. Food for the angels. If we would be a little further from the sun, we would freeze. You need that balance. Hashem communicates to us in two ways. One is he gives a shiur that's very, very restricted. The energy is very, very packaged, concealed, condensed, compressed, and therefore it feels very good. It's geschmack. That's what we call blessings in life. What's challenges in life? Challenges in life is God shares a deeper energy, a deeper truth. And because a deeper truth comes out, it shakes up the human being. Because we don't have the containers to contain infinity. We only have containers to contain finite energy. So divine energy that's finite, we could contain. It's geschmack. It's like that first shiur, Am Chaya, gewaldige Wort. Beautiful. You come home, it's packaged, yeah? Packaged, put in a plastic bag, you pay $5, you go home, you have a nice shalosh shudas. It's a good Wort, yeah? Like people say, give me a good Wort. Just give me a good Wort. Make sure it doesn't challenge me. That's the okay? People always come over. It's a good Wort. It's a good Wort for Shabbos. Yeah? I hate when people say that. It's a good Wort. A Wort suchst du. What suchst du? A Wort? You're looking for a Wort or you're looking for truth? Wertlich. Everybody wants wertlich. It's a good Wort. I should be able to sit, yeah, eat my chaluptzes, which is stuffed cabbage. Hungarians think it's a good food. Say sisu b'reimei sisu. Give me a Wort. Give me a God that works. It works. It works. It fits into my puzzle. We'll square it out. Whatever we don't like, we cut off. Fine. Okay, it's better than nothing. Maybe not. I don't know. Whatever. Maybe better without a Wort.
You can give over a Wort, but you can't give over. If you don't know what's flying, you can't give it over.
People love Worts. Today everybody wants a Wort. Just a fast Wort. It shouldn't disturb me. It should inspire me enough, but not too much. You know what I mean? It should inspire me enough to take me out of the depression and suicide, but not too much to challenge me. That not. It should inspire me enough that I still want to go on for another week and not destroy my life and burn my house down, but not too much to be able actually to really grow. Huh? That's Yotzeror. Tefillin Shalyat. Boire Choshech is much higher. The reason it's dark is because it's really light. Because it's really bright, it becomes dark because it challenges me. It shakes me up. I don't have the vessels for it. It's too much water. It's overflowing. It's overflowing. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa! This is not good. This is horrible. What makes it horrible is that it's very deep.
So the choshech is the actual bird.
Yeah. So the choshech is tefillin shel rosh. It's higher than the yotzer. That's the b'china of Beidei Choshech. That's what he says. It's einay musik. And here you see it in Chazal in one expression. It's a fascinating word. V'zel b'chol moedecha. This is b'chol moedecha. So v'haftas Hashem Elokecha with your heart, levavcha, with your whole soul, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol moedecha. What's moedecha? Nobody knows what moedecha means. So the Mishnah says moedecha means money. The word mo'oid means very. Toiv mo'oid, very much, very good. Right? Ata yeled tov mo'od. You're a very good boy. Bist a gute bachero. Toiv mo'oid. What's b'chol mo'oidecha? With your mo'oid. What's your mo'oid? So he says, Kamaimer, the Medrash Rabbah says at the end of the creation on Friday, Vayara lekim es kol asher asa v'hine toiv mo'oid. So the Medrash, toiv ze malach hachayim, mo'oid ze malach hamavos. Good, the angel of life. Very good, the angel of death. What's this mean? Toiv mo'oid. Shehu toiv mo'oid b'li shir v'gvul. What one is calling the malach hamavos, the angel that, so to speak, killing him, psychologically speaking, is really toiv ma'oid. It's infinitely good. But it didn't have the ability to be revealed as such. It's not comprehensible. It's not fathomable by the containers of the human mind. And therefore he calls it the malach hamavos. So what the Medrash is saying is, there's toiv and there's toiv ma'oid. Toiv is malach hachayim. It looks good. It feels good. It's great. It's wonderful. And we want it to stay there. And for good reason. We want it to feel good. Toiv ma'oid, the ma'oid, this is the malach that challenges the living daylights out of you. It's like, God, where did you invent these angels? You know, who makes people this way? Malach HaMavis here, he means on every level. It's the angel that it seems like all his objective is just to shake you up. You thought things were like wonderful, right? You thought finally after 20 years you have Shalom Bayis already? Shalom Aleichem! Bruchim Abayim! Life is just beginning. Let's start all over again. You thought you settled, the kids, boom! That's the Malach HaMavis on every level. So on one level you could look at it and say, okay, you know what? Cynicism, you get into a cynical mood and it's all over. Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya is saying here that here there's an element of ma'oid. Ma'oid means you're being invited to touch infinity. And whenever you're invited to touch infinity, it's a shocker. It's always a shocker. Because it does not fit in. It's not musik. I can't wrap my brain around it. That's the difference. What I wrap my brain around, I feel comfortable with. What is above my brain gives me a headache. We learned about Rachel and Leah, you remember? Parshas Vayetze, the Maimer. Rachel is loved and Leah is despised, you remember? There's the element of your spouse that you wrap your brain around. Amachaya. Works. You already know the patterns. You know what buttons to press. It's a gate. And then there's the elements that you can't wrap your brain around. It wraps itself around you completely. Igulim, not the Aisha. That's a whole different thing. Einay musig. You can't make sense of it. You can't figure it out. If you try to figure it out, it will get you even more. Don't try to figure it out. So what's this? This is Toiv Ma'oid. Toiv Ma'oid doesn't mean it looks that way. It doesn't look that way. If it looked that way, it would be called Toiv. It doesn't look that way because it's Ma'oid. Anything that's without a shear, without a gvul, without finiteness, when it comes into a world of finiteness, what does it look like? Havoc. chaos. When infinity encounters finiteness, what does it appear as? Absolute chaos. Nobody knows what hit them. So if you're having that moment in your life, take a deep breath and say, it's a moment of ma'oid. Not toiv, but ma'oid. Not toiv. You don't live in La La Land means wonderful, everything is wonderful. Baruch Hashem, I just had a heart attack. I was like, Baruch Hashem, I just dropped dead. Yeah. Not talking about that. That's Chlal, you're in a different... Not even Olam Atoyu, yeah. He said there was an Indian doctor, so he was very into, all illnesses in the mind. So he once meets a little kid. He says, I haven't met you. How have you been? How's your father? How's your uncle? He says, oh, my uncle is very sick. The doctors say he's not going to make it 3 weeks. It's horrible. He says, you go home and you tell your uncle he's not sick. He thinks he's sick. It's all in here. He thinks he's sick. He says, okay, I'll tell him. He meets him a few weeks later. He says, no, how is your uncle? He says, my uncle thinks he died. Fine. Toiv not ma'oidya. You got a point, Rabbi Litzman. I'm with you. Ani mevin otcha tov ma'od, Rabbi Litzman.
Very difficult,
You say it doesn't help. Zok's good.
A few times in my life I had kidney stone attacks.
Oy, 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 oy.
And people who know say it's worse than having a baby.
It is. Yeah.
And,
Yes.
and it's very difficult. So you can say, pain down here takes away a lot of pain afterwards. But
It doesn't take away the pain here.
doesn't help. Just something more neutral.
But to a certain degree, the fact that you're talking about it is the point that it's tied. So, I mean, even though you said you're not La La Land, there's a part of you that it sounds to me like it's not as bad as you think.
Well, you can already say much more than that. It's not bad at all. If you already want to say it's not bad at all.
Okay.
When you say it's not bad at all, but you have to qualify what that means. It could be very painful. It could be excruciatingly painful and devastating. He's already krechtchen. Every shir hebst on krechtchen. And wir staan eben tanzen.
And he's a young. And he's a young.
Huh?
And he's a young.
He's been around the block a lot of times. He's not so young.
I don't understand.
You're young on years, but not in experience, yeah?
It's interesting how Hasidus is supposed to be. It is. I'm not saying it's sarcastic. I'm saying it's supposed to be this environment, and every time somehow it pegs the heart.
Listen, the Alter Rebbe was all pnimius. There's no nice stuff with it. It's emes. You learn, you'll finish learning, you'll see v'ayid lept. He didn't like chitzonius.
Those facts that we're talking about, it's too emes.
So you want emes or you want sheker? You want emes or you want sheker? Das sagst gut. Yeah. We always have fireworks. By us it's July 4th every day. Every day is Independence Day. Every day we become independent. He could sell you the Brooklyn Bridge like everybody else does. Will nicht verkaufen the Brooklyn Bridge. Was willst du von ihm? The Alter Rebbe loved Yidden too much to sell them half-baked truths. You understand? Listen what I'm telling you. He loved Jews too much to sell them half-baked truth. That's it. That's what you have to understand.
that I can be knowing the information and learning it, and still experiencing the same.
After this mind meal, you'll experience everything differently.
If you remain conscious of it.
You'll see.
Oh
Nicht on mine. Ich sag dir, mit sie ist. Chassidus beit a mensch. There's no person that doesn't get changed. Especially an edler person like you. The Rebbe Maharash, the son of the Tzemach Tzedek, once said, there's three truths in life. Yet the Gvir is a Meshugana. Right? You know Gvir is not a Meshugana? Whoever drinks mashke gets drunk. This is an Ayid was learned Chassidus, wird gebitten. It's changed. So they said, but they ask, it's not true. You see people who drink and they're not drunk. You see people who have money and they're not Meshuggah. You see people who learn Chassidus and they're not changed. So he says the problem is it wasn't enough. If he would have more money, he would become Meshuggah. If he'd have more mashke, he'd become drunk. And if he'd learn more Chassidus, he would change. Kachamar Admur Maharash. The rest? Nicht nur Arboim Yoim, Arboim Shana.
It's not only the theoretical, it's before. Wenn man lernt man das Boy von Limmer. Man geht bald da rein in the actual talk, geht man aus Face, und nun hat das Limmer noch etwas gelernt. Die Werte machen sich aber nicht so spät.
Du kannst verbringen auf der Wort, huh? The problem, he says, with this is that it's too emes. That's the nekuda of the Maimer. It's the whole nekuda of the Maimer. Toiv ma'oid, it's too emes.
It's about excitement also, it goes all the way around. Somebody gets excited about something, gets carried away.
It's not shiny, hard guma.
Yeah, das sag ich. Nicht etwas... Das ist Ayid, was hat gelitten Asach. He suffered a lot. He knew what Ra is. He didn't live up in... He suffered terribly. Begashmis, Beruchnis. Tam geroid of Shreklach.
What is Beruchnis? Why?
Persecutions that the Balatanya had from his own... from Yidden. He was almost executed because of a Mesirah of Yidden, not Goyim. Shreklach gelitten his own Mishpacha also. He was supposed to pass away very young. His daughter knew about it. It was a kitrug on him. And she took her life instead of his. She gave up her life. So she died very young. So he had to raise her son at Tzemach Tzedek. So there was a lot of, it wasn't an easy thing. His father-in-law tortured him. He didn't have a day of menucha.
Who was his father-in-law?
Father-in-law was a Yid. His name was Rabbi Yehuda Leib Segel from Vitebsk. He was very, very wealthy. And the Alter Rebbe was a Gaon Oilam, so he took him as a son-in-law, as his pride and joy. Then he found out that he was a chassid of the Mezritcha Maggid. He became a chassid. Not he found out, he became a chassid later. So he told his wife, get divorced. And he started to persecute him. He wouldn't give him a penny, nothing.
Which year was that?
Which year? This is the late 1700s. Yeah. It was Friday night. He used to daven long. So he came home. His father-in-law went to sleep, and he locked all the cabinets with food and drinks. So Friday night he shouldn't have any food for kiddush or cholamim. So he looked and looked and looked, and he found a bottle of mashka. So he didn't have anything to make kiddush. He made kiddush on that, and it was not as 96. It was 96%. So he used to drink the whole kais, and the only thing he could find was a huge kais, and he used to do the whole kais, and he felt that he was going to die. So and he searched, he found himself a little old kasha.
Looks like rice.
Buckwheat, yeah, buckwheat, and so he ate that. That was his suda. That's why Yutas Kislev, they eat kasha b'chasidim. Saved his life. He was from the world of the Misnagdim, and he felt that his son-in-law was the worst of the worst. But to his credit, to her credit, she lived a pauper's life.
Why?
Yeah, and she wouldn't leave her husband. See, that was already when he was young. This was already after a teenager. They used to get married very young, and then later when he was 20, and then later it became just Chedim was against him. I mean, he suffered a lot.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.